ThesisGate's Taiwan investigation remains at a standstill due to COVID-19. However, the UK tribunal court case to unveil the identities of Tsai Ing-wen's examiners is still trudging along. As always, though, the ICO is dragging its feet with regards to tribunal court proceedings. It applied for an extension on its deadline to respond to judges. Today, we still don't know if the ICO has submitted its final representation pleading to the courts like it should have. It's clear, though, that the case is drawing attention from various sectors. Dr. Dennis Pang's lawyer in the UK has reached out to Michael Richardson to offer legal assistance and advice. The UK's ICO is employing the same tactic as Taiwan's education ministry when Professor He Defeng took it to court. The ICO says that it's withholding information in the interest of personal information and privacy. However, we're certain that defense will crumble in the court. This UK tribunal court case will not only impact future court decisions in both Taiwan and the UK, but it will also alter the path of Taiwan's political trajectory. The University of London is a conservative institute, but it also has a history of participating in cover-ups. However, can it still vouch for Tsai's false claims once it's taken to court? With how big ThesisGate has gotten in scale, it's likely that national security organizations have gotten involved. They're most likely attempting to intervene at the University of London. In our past episodes, we've discussed how University of London Director of Operations Craig O'Callaghan has been cooperating with Tsai and her people since 2015, beginning with when he helped Tsai obtain a replacement diploma. Of course, O'Callaghan could very well be fabricating other school documents for Tsai in 2021. New, never-before-seen files and records related to Tsai's degree have surfaced, found in indictment letters sent out by Taipei District Prosecutor Huang Wei. We should mention that all of these new files are photocopies and bear no signatures. Furthermore, Tsai's lawyer Lian Yuanlong provided this new information. We won't discuss the validity of photocopied documents. Instead, we will go ahead and say that all of this new evidence is 100% forged. First, let's say Lian Yuanlong obtained the files from Tsai Ing-wen's private collection. Despite Tsai saying she lost her thesis and degree, she still bothered to keep photocopies and minor supplemental files. It doesn't make sense that Tsai kept the outline of her thesis's first draft, but she doesn't have a copy of the thesis itself. Second, given that Tsai has all of these files, it would stand to reason that she has the original copies, no? Why is it that Huang Wei only has photocopies in his possession? Furthermore, if Lian does have original copies on hand, then why did his side ever bother with 3 different versions of a Viva notification memo? Third, if Tsai Ing-wen always had these files in her possession, then why didn't the presidential office take them out during the only press conference it ever had in response to ThesisGate's allegations? Why did this new evidence only come to light in April 2021? It's clear, Tsai's people are constantly tampering with information in order to distort the truth. It's dangerous for the offenders to draw a direct line between Tsai and the newly unveiled files, because that places all accountability for the authenticity of the documents on Tsai. In order to keep Tsai happy, her people have to find a way to remove her as the source of the new information. This is where National Security Council Secretary General Wellington Koo and Foreign Minister Joseph Wu come into play. Prosecutor Huang Wei acquired files from another ongoing case, Dr. Dennis Pang's defamation suit against Presidential Office spokesperson Xavier Chang. Judge Zhou Yuxuan presided over that case, and in September 2020, the judge ordered the retrieval of testimony from the University of London in response to Dr. Dennis Peng's questions. However, that order was quickly intercepted by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which said Taiwan did not have a mutual legal assistance agreement with the UK and could not follow through on the request. Judge Zhou was swiftly switched out in 2021 when it became clear that the judge wasn't going to fall in line with Tsai's expectations. However, the case saw progress when, in November 2020, Xavier Chang and his lawyer expressed interest in obtaining information from LSE as well. The Foreign Ministry sent necessary files to Taiwan's representative office in the UK, to which the office responded to a little while later. The office responded that 1. The University of London did not respond to its inquiries. 2. Kevin Haynes, a legal representative from the London School of Economics, responded on behalf of the school in December. What a coincidence! The University of London, which Dr. Peng had questions for, didn't respond. The London School of Economics, on the other hand, had a legal representative respond to Chang's questions. In fact, LSE went ahead and even answered Dr. Peng's questions as well. However, there is also the possibility that Taiwan's UK representative office never reached out to the University of London at all. Kevin Haynes, the legal representative from LSE, mentions that the school has 278 pages of records on Tsai Ing-wen. 278 pages is longer than most theses. What kind of student merits such a comprehensive file? What's going on here is that the appearance of these records is the work of national security organizations. The UK's correspondence is very interesting. It reveals a transaction between the University of London and Tsai Ing-wen's organization. There's no denying that the University of London is assisting Tsai, covering for academic fraud. However, the University of London also must maintain its distance from Tsai Ing-wen for legal reasons. That's why the University of London doesn't present any new information related to Tsai. It strictly adheres to its insistence of 3 facts, which are: 1. The thesis is available online. 2. Unfair trade practices and safeguard actions is listed in Legal Research in the United Kingdom 1905 to 1984, which IALS published in 1985. 3. The University of London says it has records of Tsai's viva, and that it also has records of her degree being conferred. If the University of London just released its records on Tsai, then this debacle could be long over with. But when Dr. Peng asked the University of London who Tsai's external examiners were, the school remained tight-lipped and opted to let the ICO deal with ThesisGate investigators. The University of London is the only official body that can verify Tsai's degree beyond the shadow of a doubt. Anybody else offering an explanation is largely irrelevant, and that includes LSE's Kevin Haynes and his 278 pages of records. The tacit agreement between Tsai Ing-wen and the University of London is this: Tsai and her people can publicize and announce anything they please. The school will neither vouch for nor deny anything. This agreement gives the University of London wiggle room in the event Tsai's ruse becomes undone. However, the University of London's deniability may be threatened with the case that now looms in the tribunal court. Since the beginning, ThesisGate has been a matter of pulling teeth. At first, there was no thesis, and then Tsai's organization managed to get a digital copy accepted into a national institution. At first, there was no 1984 diploma, and then Tsai's organization got her a 2015 replacement diploma. However, when it came to Tsai's external examiners, both the ICO and the University of London absolutely refused to share any information. They would rather go to court than reveal who Tsai's examiners were. In July, right before the tribunal court case began, Tsai's organization was forced to spit out 2 names chosen as external examiners. And those 2 names came from, you guessed it, the 278 pages of records Kevin Haines brought to light. Pages 74 and 75 list Michael John Elliott and Leonard H. Lee as Tsai Ing-wen's examiners. This is reminiscent of something Dr. Huan Si-lin pointed out in his independent report on Tsai's thesis. LSE officials sent an explanation as to why the formatting for one of Tsai Ing-wen's diplomas was off, even though Dr. Huan Si-lin never asked for an explanation. The question Dr. Pang has been badgering the University of London with suddenly received an answer from LSE almost out of nowhere. These are familiar moves from a familiar source, Tsai's people. Where did this 278-page record come from? On November 8, 2019, Dr. Xu Yongtai asked LSE for information about Tsai Ing-wen's examiners. Back then, Information Records Manager Rachel McGuire said that the LSE Department of Law holds no records relating to President Tsai. Now LSE is saying it has 278 pages? Let's say LSE didn't realize it had the information when Dr. Xu first asked, and didn't find it until November 2020. Why is it then that LSE Administrator Luis Nadal told ThesisGate investigators the school didn't have information for Tsai Ing-wen's external examiners on May 26, 2021? Who is Kevin Haines, and how did he get his hands on 278 pages of student information that didn't exist before? Maybe Haines is just a persona for one of Tsai's goons, a persona that exists solely to answer the question, who were Tsai's external examiners? There was a miscommunication on the National Security Organization's part. The information that Kevin Haines gave out, whoever he may be, runs contrary to what LSE Information Records managers and administrators have to say. This may be a vital loophole that helps ThesisGate in the tribunal court. Let's take a closer look at Haynes' explanation. The school refuses to give out any more information when asked about the 2 examiners' names listed in the 278-page file. The first listed examiner is Michael John Elliott, the very same person Tsai claimed was her PhD advisor. Having a PhD advisor act as an external examiner goes against academic regulation and ethics. It's something that would never be allowed in a respected learning establishment. This scenario is comparable to a football coach being able to act as his own referee. There is too much flagrant bias. In the past, we've raised suspicions as to Michael John Elliott's eligibility as Tsai's advisor. His specialty is in public and constitutional law. Elliot never wrote a thesis in his life, and yet he was qualified to act as an advisor and examiner for Tsai, who studied international economic law. Let's not forget that he was once listed as co-author of Tsai's thesis. Leonard H. Lee, on the other hand, was a criminal law professor. His specialty was in police powers and commercial crime. He acted as a member of the UK's Attorney General's Committee on Fraud Offences. Lee was appointed as an LSE criminal law professor in 1982. His background, if anything, has very little to do with Tsai's field of study. Could he really be one of Tsai's examiners? LSE had Brian Hindley, who was a very accomplished trade protection policy economist. His field of expertise was very relevant to Tsai's studies, yet he wasn't one of Tsai's examiners? At the end of the day, the problem with both Elliot and Lee is that they were both LSE professors. Vivas require external examiners. The two men listed here would be more fit to approve a transfer candidate than a PhD candidate. Will the University of London join LSE in backing these two men as Tsai's external examiners? The answer is very clear. The University of London would never support this. Back in February, the UK's courts sided with Michael Richardson and told the University of London that the public should be able to access the identity of Tsai's external examiners under the Freedom of Information Act. The University of London could have disclosed Lee and Elliot back then, but nobody would have believed the school. National security organizations really don't know how to pick sensible external examiners when trying to cover for Tsai Ing-wen. The University of London and the ICO have remained quiet about who Tsai's external examiners were. However, the question now is, will they vouch for the two names that have surfaced? Dr. Pang's lawyer in the UK has given his opinion on the matter. Dr. Pang's lawyer believes that Tsai Ing-wen and the University of London are fabricating all sorts of documents and records in an effort to make it seem like Tsai Ing-wen's degree exists. That way, they won't have to deal with the matter of Tsai's external examiners head-on. Unfortunately, the UK's courts may very well accept this defense. The defense will bring out minor, inconsequential documents such as Tsai Ing-wen's student visa and the IALS's old journals. Minor as this information may be, it might be enough to sway UK authorities. The University of London is in a prime position to argue the authenticity of Tsai's degree because they are the issuing body. On the flip side of the coin, we must prove that Tsai Ing-wen and the University of London have conspired over the past 2 years to tamper with and alter historical records. That way, we can raise doubts in the judge's mind and dismantle the defense. Let's take a look at the University of London's 3 facts. Fact number 1. The thesis is available online. The problem with this fact is how the thesis came to exist online. It seems Dr. Pang's lawyer is looking to strike a decisive blow here. New viewers to this show may not realize that in order for Tsai Ing-wen to tamper with historical records as much as she already has, the University of London must cooperate with her. Let's take a look at the thesis the school claims is available online. An entry for Tsai's thesis appeared in the British Library's index in June 2015, shortly after suspicions surrounding Tsai's thesis first surfaced. The library said the record was added in June 2015 by a member of staff in response to a user's speculative request for the thesis. In June 2019, LSE accepted a faxed copy of Tsai's thesis and placed it in the school's women's library. The submitted volume is a personal copy of Tsai's thesis, and the public is forbidden from checking it out. In July 2019, LSE entered the personal copy into its database. At first, Michael John Elliott was listed as a second author for the book. He was taken off shortly after, showing that there is someone within LSE's library system altering information on Tsai Ing-wen's behalf. A digital copy of the book was made available online in October 2019. This was the first time a copy of the thesis was available to the public 36 years after it should have been published. The British Library also changed the date of award for Tsai's thesis from 1984 to 1983. This was done to help the thesis fit into Tsai Ing-wen's fabricated past. The ProQuest database entry for Tsai's thesis is constantly getting tampered with. At one point, there were 2 separate entries for Tsai Ing-wen's thesis. The University of London claims the thesis is available online. Sounds simple, but the underlying details betray shady dealings. The thesis and its relevant information has been changed and tampered with over time. Furthermore, there is no official University of London publication, nor is there an attached thesis number accounting for the dissertation. Do these peculiarities hint at foul play, or is this just part of the University of London's thesis upkeep system? Never mind that neither the school's Senate House Library nor the IALS Library does not possess Tsai's thesis either. In the lead-up to this UK tribunal court case, Taiwan's courts will open on July 28th to hear Tsai Ing-wen's defamation case against Dr. Dennis Pang. Dr. Pang's case against Tsai, alleging that her thesis doesn't exist, is also getting ready to be heard in court. With lawsuits raging in 2 different countries, things are getting tense. Legal trials in both the UK and Taiwan will be a test of how each country deals with personal rights infringements and judicial accountability. Even though Taiwan's education ministry has been caught hawking lies, there's still a chance that Dr. Dennis Pang, who is trying to hold the ministry accountable, could lose his case. People in Taiwan have found their government mechanisms and controls largely disappointing after ThesisGate's findings. The academic community has found reason to be rather disenchanted with the University of London. There are those who speculate that ThesisGate will come to an end in the courtroom, though not in a definitive manner. For example, Dr. Dennis Pang may be let go because of freedom of speech, but Tsai may walk away with a court ruling in favor of her phony thesis. However, we will not stand idly by as the institution of higher learning is desecrated. ThesisGate is more than a political movement. It is a revolution, one that demands truth and trust. Overseas investigators have one goal, and that is to get the University of London to admit to Tsai's academic fraud. We will see Tsai in court, whether it be in the UK or in Taiwan.